If you're looking for cheap, safe, and reliable MT, make sure you go check out my new sponsor, safembamt.com. Use code JC2K for 5% off and go build that God Squad you always wanted. Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to the JC2K video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing episode number 17 of I Build Your Teams, the series where I rate my viewers' teams and try to build them into the best teams possible for competitive play, or just my team unlimited, or really just any sort of 5v5 gameplay in general. If you want to be involved in a future episode of this video, make sure you go follow me on Twitter. My link is always down in the description below, and be on the lookout for a tweet about this series on Friday nights to record on Saturdays if you want to be involved in a future episode of this video. Just make sure you're on the lookout for that tweet and following me on Twitter. For the first time in 17 episodes, though, we have a special guest today doing a collab with the GOAT, 3 Point Shaw. Appreciate you coming through today, Shaw.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, JC, for having me on here. I'm really excited to take a look at some of these squads and give my opinions on them. For having me.
I will, of course, leave Shaw's Twitch. He streams almost daily over on Twitch, so make sure y'all go some support over there. His YouTube as well. He's actually dropping a very, very similar video. We're rating some teams over on his channel as well, so y'all go check out that video. And then obviously make sure to subscribe to his YouTube and then follow him on Twitter as well. I'll leave all those links down in the description, so y'all make sure y'all go show him support and follow him on all of his socials. But yeah, without further ado, let's hop right into it and let's take a look at some squads. So first team today comes in from my guy Fryan. He's on currency. He's got 300k plus MT in auctions right now. And looking at this squad, I see with 350k MT, let's just say that to be safe, you got 350k MT after your auction sell. We got great point guards, Ben and Luca, really, really nice. Great small forwards, Thon and Danny, really, really nice again. Power forwards, same thing. Centers are solid. I don't love this Dikembe Mutombo card simply just because I can't green with him that well. But again, I think it's solid. And even your shooting guard position, I don't dislike it. I just think that probably would be the position to focus on, just making a slight upgrade. And the way that I'd probably do that would be pick one of Jimmy Butler and KD, whoever you prefer, play them at your backup, and then either get rid of the other one, whether that's selling KD or just taking Jimmy out of the lineup. And then a starting shooting guard that I'd probably go after, just a simple upgrade. Pretty, not super cheap, but a very, very solid option is a guy like Paul George. He's not super expensive, and he's really a do-it-all monster. He's great on defense, great slasher, great dribble sigs, really nice jump shot. I like that card a lot. And then I think the center position. I don't love Dikembe. I think Shaw might disagree with me on this one, but I might look to replace Dikembe as well. I don't know. What do you think, Shaw?
I think some people might be better with that jumper, that base forward, than others, and I think Dikembe is just a great all-around center. Gets a lot of stops on defense. If he's in the way, like your opponent is not scoring, and he gets his blocks and rebounds, I think he's good there. He does what he needs to do, and if he's wide open, he's gonna hit his shot. I would probably spend a little more on the shooting guard position based on my own playstyle. We don't have a playstyle here, but I think a lot of people do like to shoot threes in this game, and I think Andrei Kirilenko is the card to go with. He might not be within your budget. I'm not sure about the current price of him. You can save up a little more, pick up Andrei Kirilenko at that starting shooting guard, and then maybe bench Jimmy or keep Durant at the backup shooting guard. Or if you look to sell Durant, bench Jimmy, you'll definitely be able to pick up the Andrei Kirilenko, and that's probably what I would do if you're okay with keeping Dikembe. If you're not okay with keeping Dikembe, then of course swap out that Dikembe and look to pick up a guy like James Wiseman, who I think is incredible for a very cheap price, under 100k.
The one other thing I will say about this team, and I kind of agree with him on Andrei Kirilenko, I think that'd be a great upgrade to make. If you decide to go the Andrei Kirilenko route, I might consider running him at the backup point guard, or even running Simmons at the backup point guard and starting AK one of the two, and starting Luka at the 2. I think if you do that, you may bring Jimmy Butler off the bench at the 2. You have a lot more flexibility, I think, in terms of an elite defensive point guard off your bench and in your starting lineup. I think it just balances your defense a lot more. So that's probably the way that I would go, just to give you more balance overall in the game. And obviously, I think Luka is one of the best offensive cards in the game. And I really would replace Dikembe. If you love him, feel free to keep him. But you could sell Dikembe. And I'll say this, if you sell Dikembe and Kevin Durant, I'm pretty sure you would probably have enough MT to go get Andrei Kirilenko and Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, I think, is the best non-Kareem center in the game. And Kareem is very, very expensive, obviously, a little bit out of your price range. But Joel, he's not that expensive anymore. I think he's under 200k on Xbox right now. You could probably make both of those upgrades. And if you make those two upgrades, I mean, we got a team that can literally compete with any team in the game. But yeah, I think really this team, you just make a couple upgrades, you're looking at a very, very high level comp squad. Let's check out this second team.
All right, we have Hero here, who is waiting on Blake. I can't wait for that Blake either, man. That point guard Blake's going to be great. We have 250 to 300K, and we are on next gen. So we have Luka and Ben Simmons at the point guard positions, who are phenomenal. We have Tom and Jimmy. I think I would probably replace that Tom Van Arsdale for his brother, Dick Van Arsdale. He has the Hall of Fame blinders. Everything else is the same between them, and he has a little bit of a different jumper with that base 98 versus D Wade. I think that's the first upgrade I'd make. Then we have that Bailey Howell and Jonathan Isaac. I can't say that I love those two cards. Those are probably the weakest links on the team as far as I can see. And we have Bill Russell and Dino Raja. I think those cards are incredible. Of course, if Dino has the right badges, he is phenomenal. And then we have Karl Anthony Towns and James Wiseman. I would probably say first is the Van Arsdale swap, and then I don't know if I really love that Karl Anthony Towns card. Most people I know, I think including JC, we don't really love that card. I think a card like Embiid is a big upgrade for you, or maybe even starting James Wiseman, moving maybe Dino to the backup center, picking up a Bol Bol or a Ben Wallace would be very nice. You are on next gen, and I can't say that Ben Wallace is amazing on next gen jumper wise, but maybe you can get used to it. That's probably the first thing that I would do, is just get rid of Karl Anthony Towns and swap out Van Arsdale.
For me personally, I do agree. I think if you have the other Van Arsdale brother, I would definitely put him in there. If you don't have Dick, because I don't think he's available anymore, make sure that your Tom Van Arsdale at least has gold blinders. If you're going to use this card, make sure it at least has that gold blinders badge. It's going to make a huge difference from not having blinders. But otherwise, I do think your weakest position is the small forward position and then this starting center. So I think a couple ways you can upgrade that. I agree with him. I think you start Wiseman, you sell Karl Anthony Towns, and you move Dino to that backup big. And then I think off the bench, I think Embiid would just be too much MT personally, for me personally, based on how much MT you have right now. So I think moving Wiseman to start and then Dino off the bench, and then picking up a guy like Bol Bol, who's amazing on next gen. Get one that's juiced up with some extra Hall of Fame badges like Showtime clamps and several other Hoffs. You get one with close to 40 Hall of Fame badges, you could probably get them for 50K. And then you're still looking at having, I would say, closer to 300K after your Karl Anthony Towns sells. At that point, on next gen specifically, I think you're fine playing one of Bailey Howell or Jonathan Isaac, whoever you prefer, off the bench. But then as a starter, I know we talk about Anton Jameson a lot. Anton Jameson is one of the best cards, I truly believe, in the game, especially on next gen. X and base, as y'all know, is so good on next gen. I just think if you plug X and base with Anton Jameson in here at the starting small forward position, and then bring another guy off the bench, one of these two off the bench, and you make that center swap, you're looking at an elite squad. I really think it's pretty much that simple with Anton Jameson. I don't know. What do you think, Shaw?
I think, yes, that's something that I forgot to mention. I did mention that one of those two guys might need to be replaced, and I think Anton Jameson is the perfect fit. Most people love that jumper. I don't think anybody's going to dislike that jumper. And he has, I think, 56 Hall of Fame badges, 95 stats all across the board. He is an incredible card, an endgame card, and I think he fits right over Bailey Howell, who, in my opinion, Bailey Howell is a little bit outdated, a little bit needs to be upgraded at this point. And I think Anton James is the perfect card, so I think we agree there.
Yeah, but really solid squad, especially if you make those couple upgrades. Next team today comes in from Solo. He's on current and he's got 400K. I'm looking at this lineup and I see this starting lineup. We're like LaMelo, Luka, Danny, Bill, Kristaps. We're looking great starting lineup. I glance down at the bench and it just goes awry real quick. We got J.R. Smith. This card wasn't good the day he came out. I'm sorry. Same thing with Julius Randle, to be honest. Like, we're looking at two guys here who are just not particularly good cards. The day they came out, they were mediocre. These days, they're just not that good. So I think with 400K, you can very easily upgrade these two guys. The way I would do that on current gen specifically, just me, Wes Unseld, backup point guard, he's like 10, 15K MT. He'd be a massive upgrade over Jerry. He's got a great jump shot with Kobe based on very quick, a big player build. He's just better basically in every single area than JR. Same thing at the power forward position. You go get yourself Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace is another one of those guys similar to Anton Jameson, who he was just mentioning, who is a borderline invincible card. And you pick him up and like, he's a massive upgrade over Julius Randle. He can do it all on both ends of the court. Exceptional card. Basically, Bill Russell light at that backup power forward position. And then again, I just mentioned Anton Jameson. You could pick him up. I really think Wes Unseld, Anton Jameson, Ben Wallace. You make those three upgrades, you'll still have a decent amount of MT left, and your team will be looking so much better. That's just my thought. What do you think, Shaw?
I think I would have to make those same exact upgrades, but I do like to offer a little bit of a different, other options here. Some people may not love that Ben Wallace card. I know some people dislike his jumper. I love that Ben Wallace card, and I think he's the perfect backup 4. But if you don't like Ben Wallace, I would say move Bol Bol to the backup power forward, and then pick up a card like maybe Wiseman, who goes for a very similar price to Ben Wallace, who can play a good backup 5 for you. And that kind of gives you another option there. I think Antawn Jamison is the perfect small forward replacement for Jonathan Isaac. And I think the most important card to replace is J.R. Smith. I think he is by far the weakest card on the team. And I think Wes Unseld is the best upgrade there. Very good card and is much more valuable than his price tag. He is around like 10K, maybe if that. And he will play phenomenal against pretty much any other point guard in his way. So I think those are the upgrades I'd offer. I'd probably go with Ben Wallace too. But if you don't like Ben Wallace or don't want to use him for whatever reason, for a jumper, I think Wiseman, who has a very good jumper and can play center pretty well, is another option there.
And I'll actually offer you one more option, because I noticed one thing about this team. Even if you pick up Russell or Wes Unseld to replace J.R. Smith, which I think you need to do, like no hesitation. With 400 KMT, you could pick up Wes Unseld, Antawn Jamison, and Ben Wallace, or even Dino Raja, James Wiseman, one of those other two guys at the backup center position and movable wall. You could really make all three of those upgrades. There's one other thing you could do just based on your size. You could sell LaMelo Ball, and you'll still have enough MT even after making those three upgrades to get a guy like Ben Simmons or Andre Kirilenko, who gives you a lot more size and a lot more defense in your starting lineup. I think you might want to consider doing something like that as well, because I think it's crucial to have size in the starting lineup, especially when we're playing and get a game now where you could quite literally run a lineup of Ben Simmons, Giannis, Bol, Kareem, and Shaq. Like we see some insane teams at this point in the year. So I do think having a little bit more size at the point guard position might be a good way to go. And that's one other upgrade that I just wanted to mention, potentially considering getting a bigger, better defensive point guard on this team. But yeah, I think that really wraps it up for great upgrades you could make in this team. I'll throw it over to Shaw for this fourth squad of the video.
All right, so we have Luka starting, Elgin Baylor, who I like, Danny Ferry, Bobo, George Harrison at the center position. That's a first here in this video. I'm a little bit surprised to see that George Harrison make the lineup there. We have the backup point guard Zion. We have Jimmy Butler, Bailey Howell, Bob McAdoo, and Raja. I think what stands out first is I think that Zion and that Bob McAdoo would have to be replaced first, and George Harrison would be the card right afterwards that I have to replace. I think he's just missing a little bit too much. He's not fast enough and is missing some animations and doesn't really have the best jumper to really play that starting center position. I think Dino Raja is actually just better than Harrison, and he's just an immediate upgrade at the starting position. So moving Dino Raja up could be a nice option there. I think at the backup point guard, Wes Unseld is a big upgrade, and we talk about Wes Unseld a lot, and it's just because he is that good for about 10 KMT and a very, very big upgrade. At the backup small forward, we do have some other options like a Lamar Odom or even an Antawn Jamison. Lamar Odom has a little bit of a different playstyle than Antawn Jamison, so it really is what fits your playstyle. Lamar Odom is a good card to maybe run at the rim a little bit more and get some contact on to play some good defense. Antawn is a spot-up shooter who's going to knock down every single shot you throw at his way with that XM base. And the Bob McAdoo, I think he needs to go. He doesn't have the greatest jumper, and he's missing hot zones. And the hot zones is what kills it for me. I think he definitely needs to go for a card like Ben Wallace, or Bill Russell's not here. I don't know if you have Bill Russell or not. Probably don't. Would have been running him. But if you're close to getting Bill Russell or Ben Wallace, I think those are the two upgrades there for Bob McAdoo.
I agree 100% with everything that Shaw said there. I think he makes a really good point about all these guys. And I will agree with him at the center position. A really simple upgrade would be to move Dinos here, and you could pick up a guy like James Wiseman. I think that's a smart upgrade. I think if you're close to Bill Russell, finish out Bill Russell and get him in. You could move Bol to the backup four. Even if you're not, go get Ben Wallace. And I know we say this a lot. We'll name guys like Wes Unseld, Antawn Jamison, Ben Wallace, James Wiseman, Dino Raja, these like super elite budget cards. And the reason they're named so much is because they're not expensive and they can compete with the best cards in the game at a very high level. I think if you make those simple upgrades, they're not costing you a ton of MT, and they're making your team look so much better. You plug in Wes Unseld here, Antawn Jamison here, Ben Wallace here, and James Wiseman here, and start Dino Raja. Your team is quite literally 10 times better. But the one other thing that I want to mention, just like with this last team, we got some small guards, and I think you're even squalor on this team. Even if you pick up Wes Unseld, Luka Doncic and Elgin Baylor, you're looking at a 6'7" guy who doesn't have a huge player build, and a 6'5" guy who again doesn't have a huge player build. In that starting lineup, while I like these two cards, one thing I might consider doing with the amount of MT you have, if you still pick up Wes Unseld, Antawn, Ben Wallace, and Wiseman, for example, you're spending less than 200K picking up all those cards. You're still looking at 300K MT. You could move Luka to the starting two, and you could pick up, just like I mentioned with that last team, Andre Kirilenko or Ben Simmons to give you a lot more defense. Or even if you wanted to go cheaper, a guy like Shaw mentioned, who you could play at that shoot small forward position, you can also play at point guard in Lamar Odom. He can run at the rim very high level. If you want to 5 out, Lamar Odom is amazing for 5 outing, similar to Ben Simmons. He's just a slightly cheaper version of Ben Simmons, not quite as good, but I really do think he gives you a decent amount of what Ben Simmons would give you on that offensive and defensive end of the court. And I think that's one other thing you might want to consider is just making sure that your guards have a little bit more size to help you, especially on the defensive end of the court. Yeah, you want to add anything else to this team?
I think I would have to agree there is you made a great point there is his guards are on the smaller end. You know, they're kind of short compared to what you would maybe face in Unlimited with a Ben Simmons at point guard, Giannis as shooting guard, and guys like Bol as small forward. So you do need a little more size at point guard. I think Lamar Odom gives you both of that at point guard and at small forward. And then maybe Ben Simmons instead, you know, obviously you wouldn't be able to guard up against any of these guys. So great point there. I like it. And I think I would have to agree.
All right, and moving into the fifth and final team of the video comes in from my guy Max. I've played against him on Xbox several times. Actually, really underrated player, super sweaty, really good, solid player with a solid squad as well. I'm looking at this team. We got some really good guys. Your point guard position, I think, is elite. I think your small forward position, in terms of cheap elite options, Danny Ferry and Jeff Green are awesome. Jeff Green's another one of those guys who we haven't really mentioned much this video. But if you're in a pinch and you need a small forward, and this goes for anybody out there, Jeff Green, he's going to give you basically everything you need on the court for less than 10,000 MT. He's a great option to just plug and play who can compete against top guards in the game for almost no MT. Power forwards are absolutely elite. And then center position, I think it's solid. But with only 4,000 MT, that really jumps off the page at me, is this Dwight Howard. He's 250,000 MT, and I don't think he's that good. I just do not think this Dwight Howard is a good card at all. I would much prefer spending a fifth of the MT. Go get yourself a Juiced Bull with 40 Hall of Fame badges, Showtime and Clamps and some other ones. Go get yourself a James Wiseman. Either one of those two guys are massive upgrades for literally a fifth of the price. You're spending so much less MT, and I think, maybe not massive upgrades, but they're as good or better than this Dwight Howard card, and they're so much cheaper. And that would open up so much more MT. You're sitting at close to 200,000 MT all of a sudden. You have the opportunity to potentially upgrade the shooting guard position. It just gives you so much more flexibility if you sell that Dwight Howard card. But what do you think, Shaw? What do you think we would do with this squad?
I think with the amount of MT we have, we don't have a lot of room for improvement. I think maybe we can plug in a guy like Jimmy Butler instead of DeRozan and just sell DeRozan, or we can sell Dwight Howard. I would agree there, and maybe pick up like a card like Wiseman. And I'm very high on Wiseman. I love that Wiseman card. And with that extra MT, we can go ahead and finish up that level 40 grind and get that Luka Doncic, man. He's phenomenal. You need that card for this team. And I think Jimmy Butler does give you an upgrade over DeMar DeRozan at this point and saves you some MT. I don't think DeMar can give you enough, if anything, really, that would warrant keeping him and his price tag with the amount of MT that you have. So I think that's two upgrades I would make. And then you get Luka and you replace Yi with Luka, and then pick up a card like Wiseman, like you mentioned. I think those are the upgrades I would probably make here.
I honestly agree. I think one thing I will mention, the fact that you're not running Jimmy Butler makes me think you don't like the card that much, and that's okay. I personally think Jimmy Butler's a solid option. Shaw also thinks it's a solid option. But if you don't want to run this Jimmy Butler card, I'm going to give you one other thing that you could do. If you sell Dwight, you sell DeMar, and you grind that Luka out, because I'm sure you could have Luka within the next day or two if you really wanted to with the amount of XP that's available. You sell this Dwight, you pick up a guy like Wiseman, and then the shooting guard position, you get Luka, and one other dude you could plug in who's 115, 120K last I checked is a guy like Paul George. He is so elite, I think, on both ends of the court. Again, one of the most underrated cards, I think, in the game. Super good for his price point. I think if you were to go with like AK, Luka, and then LaMelo, Paul George off the bench, and we had Dino starting and Wiseman off the bench or something along those lines, you're looking at a team that really can compete with any team in the game. And we did that with a team that had 4,000 MT. I just think Dwight Howard just takes up so much MT and limits your growth in other areas on this squad. And really, that's what I see with this team. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the video, and also make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Again, go follow my guy Shaw on all of his socials. Go check out his video on YouTube as well. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description below. And also go check him out on Twitch. He streams every single day over there as well. And then go follow him on Twitter as well. Make sure you're participating in his future Rate My Team videos as well. I appreciate all the support as always. And Shaw, you want to say anything else?
I just want to say thanks for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary, the back and forth, and pretty much the inputs that both of us gave, and kind of like that we kind of gave our own takes on everything. So thank you for having me, man.
One other thing I do want to mention real quick before this video ends. be on the lookout for some collabs coming in the near future. We have some really good ideas coming out for y'all potentially in the next month, even next couple of weeks. Definitely be on the lookout for that stuff, because we have some really creative content coming for y'all in the near future. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Like I said earlier, I appreciate all the support as always, and I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.